Hello, my name is Harry Barr. I am the CEO, director, and chairman of New Age Metals. New Age Metals is a company that has two focuses, two green metals. We have a platinum group metal division and are developing one of the largest undeveloped projects of its kind in North America. And we have a lithium division in Manitoba with 7 projects and just joint ventured with the 5th largest mining company in the world to help us develop that.
Harry, nice to meet you. First time we've met or spoken. I appreciate you coming on the show. Now, you're holed up in Hawaii, you told me before we started. How are things over there?
Well, they're just, I think, winding down the COVID thing, and it hit them hard on the tourism side. I've been fortunate enough to have several places over the last 25 years here. Having lived in Vancouver, this is one of the places you would come to. And the first trip I made, I actually bought a little condo here, and I've kind of traded up over the years. So I get over here in the winter months and work from here if I can, and typically travel to conventions when they're on, but they canceled the last 2 or 3 we were to do. So I've been stuck here and working from Hawaii.
It doesn't sound such a hardship, Harry.
No, it's definitely nice out there.
Hey, right. Like I say, it's the first time we've heard the story or spoken, so therefore I want to kind of dig into it. But I always like to understand who I'm talking to, and and a little bit about the team they've assembled. So you can give us a bit of a background on you, relative to what you've been doing here.
Yeah, I've been in the mining business since I was a kid. I had a crazy old uncle who at 70 years of age, I'm 67 now, decided to go to the jungles of Colombia and buy a placer gold mine. So in my mid 20s, I was able to go down there and got caught with the bug. And not many years later, a couple of years later, went to Vancouver and started my group of companies, all of them that are still running today. I started Canalaska Uranium. I started Free Gold Ventures, which is a multi-million ounce project up in Alaska. And I started this company, which was called Pacific Northwest Capital first, and we renamed it in 2017 to New Age Metals. We still have El Nino in the fold. It's a little junior that's working down in New Brunswick on a zinc project. And this is our main focus, New Age Metals.
Okay, and so what are you by training? Are you geo?
Well, I went where I was to be a 4th generation farmer. I went to the University of Guelph in Guelph, Ontario, and studied agribusiness. And as I say, my uncle asked me to go down to help him run his placer mine, and that's how I got started. So I'm not a geologist or an engineer. I've worked with them all my career, and basically, I'm a deal maker and a financier, and try to keep teams of people together moving forward towards a common goal.
Okay, and it sounds like you sort of give us a bit of a clue about how you think about these sorts of projects. You have sold or spun out or JV'd?
We've done a little bit of everything. We've spun out, we've sold, we've the joint venture or option joint venture agreement we just signed with Mineral Resources, the 5th largest lithium producer that we'll tell you about more, was my 44th deal I've done with a major, either an option, earn-in, buyout, or we earned into their projects. So I've done a lot of work with majors over the years, and they finance a lot of our projects.
Okay, so project generator, explorer, is that I'm trying to frame you in something.
Right? Yeah. I've never really tried to be a producer. It just was something that I felt, our team and the people I work with, which are mainly geologists, certainly some engineers too, we were better at the exploration game, so that's what we've stayed at.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm going to jump around a bit and sort of deal with some of the outliers, and then end up on the River Valley Palladium project, because I think that's your flagship, right? So you've mentioned them twice already. Mineral Resources, Aussie, $9 billion Aussie company, pretty big. You're working with them on the lithium project in Manitoba.
Yeah.
So what is the structure of a deal like that? How does that help you with your other projects?
In 2016, we decided to put together a lithium division, and I was fortunate enough to run into a couple of people who knew the industry pretty well in Manitoba, and they helped me put together what we have 7 projects now. There's more coming down the pipe. And it was our stated objective from that time to actually bring in a joint venture partner, somebody that was in the industry who wanted to help us develop the projects, and that division was always our secondary item. This will be our first big year where there'll be somewhere in the $1 to $1.5 million going to the ground in at least 2 drill programs. So we put together a list of potential partners and went out to them, and we were fortunate enough to get an email back from Mineral Resources last, I guess it was a year ago this past February, and then we spent most of the season putting the deal together. They'd never worked in Canada, so there was a lot of due diligence, and then we finally announced the option joint venture agreement in late September, and it's $4.4 million, of which we get $400,000 in cash payments, and $4 million plus goes into the ground for them to earn 51%. They can earn up to 75%. There's 2 more chunks, 65 and 75. At 65, they've got to do at least a pre-feasibility study and some economic studies on at least 1 or more of the projects. And they have to have it basically kind of shovel ready to get to 75%. So it's a relatively good deal with a lot of more millions and millions of dollars to go in before we have to kind of buck up.
Okay, so sorry. Well, I was about to say it's a sort of standard deal in that sense. You're carried through to FID, but you got $400 out of it, and they have got a period of time to deliver a certain amount of spend. What time frame is
right.
that? I didn't catch that.
Well, in the first, it's 42 months to get their 51%, and then in the 7 to 8 year period to get the balance. We are the field manager, so we also receive an income for doing basically work on the ground, and have a fair good say in it. They have the final say because they're writing checks. But being great partners to date, and we're just trying to get our 2022 budget finalized now. This is their budget time, so we submitted everything to them, and we should have that the next 3 weeks, I hope.
Right, and we've talked about a few companies this week with deals like this, where big guys come in, Rio comes in, or a mid-tier comes in, like Mineral Resources, MRL, or MRN as they are now. It can be a great thing for companies like you. People get excited about what is going to happen. It's all kind of blue sky and it's all up. When they don't find what they're looking for, or it doesn't deliver the scale that they're looking for, it has a sort of knock-on effect. Again, people think, oh no, there must be something wrong here. So you've done quite a few of these types of deals, Harry. So how do you mitigate the kind of over-enthusiasm of it when a deal like this is signed, and sort of temper it to make sure that there's no sort of real negative effect, like say if they hand the project back to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always, I think, negative at first when a project comes back. And, sometimes it's a good reason. There just isn't enough mineralization there to make it worthwhile.
For them, but it may be good for you.
Yeah, for them.
Yeah.
A case in point right in-house is our River Valley project. We end up buying it back from Anglo Platinum, the largest producer in the world at the time, after they'd spent $30 million. Well, 2 of the fellows one's on our full board and one's on our advisory board that were head of exploration worldwide for Anglo now. And it wasn't because they didn't like it. It was because a new CEO came in and shut off overseas exploration in 5 countries. So, it depends on the reason. It depends on the size. Sometimes you're giving back something that wasn't big enough for them, but you have the fortitude and you keep moving forward and you make it bigger. And sometimes you'll get another major. I've had projects where I've had 4 majors on, and so it just depends on the circumstances.
And then, and again, coming back to the fact that you've done quite a few of these, Harry, what's your expectation of what happens at the end of this? When you get through to FID, you're fully carried through at that point, but then at that point, you're going to have to stump up the cash. I suspect there's a conversation to be had, right?
Well, we have a fairly good clause in our contract. At that level, we have the right to have them help us get a loan for our 25%.
Got it.
So we're kind of, I don't want to say we're carried all the way through, but there's a very good chance that could be the case.
Okay, and there'll be a cost to that, but how do you then reward your shareholders? Because like I'm looking at your company, you're what have you, 20, 25, 30 million market cap, depending on the day of the week. And it's kind of moved sideways for the last 12 months or so because it's been sort of difficult. It's been a bizarre time because the precious metal prices, the battery metal prices of the commodities are going up, but obviously the junior explorers and certain project generators, they're not seeing the benefit of that yet. I think just the producers are. So your shareholders have got to think, well, how do I get rewarded? I'm sitting here for the long haul because of the nature of the business model, and that's fine. But along the way, I'm going to get rewarded because we're going to spin out projects. We're going to sell projects. Is that the way you think about it?
We also put in this agreement that we have the right to spin this out into either an existing pubco or a brand new vehicle, which then the shareholders would get a piece of. That's one concept. Going forward, possibly we just sell our interest and take that cash and go and do something else. It's just too early to tell at this point.
Okay, and how do you agree a price on that? Because obviously, if you went to your Australian partner, they're going to have a view of what that value is versus you. You're going to have a different view. Is that predetermined? Is there a metric in place?
Well, it'll be mostly determined probably by the financial documents that are created. The economic documents and what our interest would be worth and what they can afford to pay us and still make it work for them. So yeah, it's I think we'd have by that time some pretty good documents that could help us point towards a number.
Right. Okay. No, I'm always kind of intrigued by the mechanics and the economics. So, okay. Well, let's park up lithium. And actually, one more question. Actually, you refer to these different parts of the organization as divisions, right? You got a lithium division. You've got your platinum group metals division, and you previously referred to division. Why have you done that? Why the distinction?
Well, I just see them as being distinct, and I think you could cut one out from the other and still move forward. So, platinum group metals are quite a lot different than lithium, although they both are used in the automobile industry and I think have a lot of potential for the future. So, that's what makes us a bit unique too, that I don't know of any other companies, there may be one or two that basically have both PGMs and lithium in their mix. So it certainly gives, some of the people who are shareholders have bought for one division or the other. They didn't typically buy for both, but what I always say is when you buy a share, you get both.
Okay. Well, let's park that up. Obviously, we'll sit and watch what news coming out of Mineral Resources, and hopefully they pay attention to. Because I suspect they have multiple optionality projects like this around the world. But I guess the news flow will tell us what they think of it soon enough. You've also got a nickel project over in Alaska. That's within the Platinum Group Metals division. So what's happening with that? How's that advancing?
Well, it's a mix. It's a polymetallic. It is platinum, palladium, copper, nickel.
Oh, I saw copper and got excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a very interesting project. It's never had a drill hole in it. We've got quite a few areas, one as much as 2,000 meters, where we've got very good mineralization on surface, like a couple of grams of PGMs and a couple of grams of platinum and palladium separate, and then up to a percentage of nickel and better than half a percentage of copper. So it's a property that road accessible, which is important in Alaska. We own 100% of it. And what we've been doing there, it's kind of been our third project, is trying to find a partner. But the last couple of years, I think it'll be better this year in Alaska, you virtually couldn't get anyone to even visit the property because of COVID. So luckily our holding costs are very small, about $40,000 a year. And we did do a $100,000 surface program to try and find additional targets there last year that we should have an announcement on in the next few weeks.
Okay.
So we're looking for a partner there.
Okay, so strategic partner to come in, similar sort of setup as you've done on the lithium. That would be the idea.
Yeah, that's the concept. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Right. Well, let's talk about the flagship project, River Valley Palladium project. Why don't you give us a sort of a summary of that, and I want to sort of dig into that if I may.
Yeah. Well, the beauty of this project is, first of all, is its location. We are about 100 road kilometers from Sudbury, Ontario. And why Sudbury is important is that it has the ability to take our concentrates, because the two big producers there produce PGMs as a byproduct of their primary nickel copper operations. And to prove that point, there's only one producing mine in PGMs in Canada, and it successfully shipped its concentrates for about 22 to 24 years from Northern Ontario, about 800 kilometers away, to Sudbury, and still does today. That's the Lac des Îles mine. We're, again, only about 100 kilometers. The other thing about Sudbury for a junior company is everything you need, from the drills to the assay companies, the metallurgical companies, engineering companies, environmental companies. It's all right there. In fact, most of the companies that we're dealing with are from that area right now that are helping us with our pre-feasibility study. So over the years, we did have a partner, Anglo Platinum, who spent a lot of money on the project. And we, at that point, had probably about 2 million ounces of PGMs. We're closer to 4 in all categories now. In 2005, 6, 7, we started hearing rumblings of them running out of the ability to fund the project. They were the biggest company in the world at the time, but they changed their plans and they shut off exploration in all the 5 countries that we're in. So it took me almost 4 years to buy back their 50% interest, and I had that done in 2012. But in 2012, right till about 2017, we just did the minimum amount on the property. We had parked it. Times are really tough in the industry, and we were selling off some of our other assets just to keep everything going. So it wasn't until 2017 that we kind of reinstated the property. And since then, we've done a couple resource updates. We did a PEA in 2019, and we are in the middle of a $4 million pre-feasibility study as we speak. So the property, even though it has tremendous exploration upside, it's 16 kilometers, and we've only drilled about 60% of that. It's not all drilled out. We've got quite a few new drill targets we've just generated. 40% has not been drilled, although there's been a few holes in it. We've not drilled more than 3 or 4 holes past 500 meters, so it's still, in terms of depth, we don't know the depth of it. We need to have a big program to drill some deep holes to show that it has potential at depth still, and lots of drilling to add more ounces. But at a certain point 2 years ago, we decided we have enough ounces. Let's walk through the different economic reports that needed to be done. So as I say, our main focus is with 5 companies right now, helping us do a pre-feasibility study. Right.
Okay. So the pre-feasibility study will sort of, obviously help us better understand the economics, because the PEA, I mean, the pre-tax and after-tax IRRs were quite low, like 13 and 10% respectively. But that was on 1,200 ounce palladium and 1050 platinum and 325 copper from memory.
Mm-hmm.
Times have changed, right? Obviously, I think palladium's possibly double that, and copper's around 4-6 at the moment. So it's in interesting times to be doing this. But is that? Do you need numbers? Do you think you need the numbers to be constant, as in where they are at the moment, for this project to be attractive? Are you concerned about the sustainability of the copper price, or palladium price, or platinum price, to make the economics work? Because it's like 10% after tax IRR is on the lower side, right?
Well, that's right. At $1,200, that's where we were. I think if we looked at a number of $1,800, I think it's going to be more than economic, and anything above that is just pure gravy. So, and I think this study, we should either a 2 or 3 year trailing average they use. So it should be in that range. I can't say for sure, but once the study's done, we'll know. But I would think that it's going to look a lot more positive than the PEA.
Right. Okay. And so what do you do next? Obviously, people have been sending questions in, which is great. I think they're intrigued as to Eric Sprott's involvement and others. And my question would come back to, given the model that you have traditionally engaged in, you're going to be looking for someone to step in now at PFS level, or do you think you can get it through the feasibility study?
Well, I think we could get it through the feasibility study. Having said that, once we get this next study, the pre-feasibility in hand, we will be out soliciting, and we're talking to people almost on a weekly basis to keep them up to date as to where we are. So yes, we could bring in a partner as early as help us do the feasibility study. But we might go ahead and do it ourselves too. So we have basically a couple options there.
Okay, interesting. I know you put a piece out about an MOU with local First Nations, very important in Canada, a process to go through. I mean, how long have that been in the works?
Well, with the one group, I think we signed something in 2012 and have updated a couple times. We signed a very recent MOU with the second group just this January. They kind of came in because back about 5 years ago, we acquired the bottom 4 kilometers of our 16 kilometers, and that's where the second group came from. So we've been talking to them, and we got finally around to meetings, and then finally put together an MOU with them here in January. So we've got the whole district as we know it covered today. There may be other things happening with other groups somewhere down the road, but this is the 2 groups that the government have said we need to work with, and we are.
Okay.
We have a good.
Okay. Coming back to the beginning of that question, which was obviously Eric Sprott's involvement. Uncle Eric is always welcome with his checkbook. What's his expectation of you? Why is he in this deal?
Well, I've been fortunate to know Eric for many years, and I wish we had in this industry about 20 more Eric types. He's certainly unique. He goes all in, and he wasn't very interested in platinum group metals. The last talk before he started to invest I had was probably mid 2019, and he says he's starting to follow the sector, but he's primarily, as you know, a gold and silver guy. And interestingly enough, when I last talked to him, I don't know what his investment is now. I won't say exactly, but he quoted what would be a fairly big figure to us that he had in the PGM industry, and said he just doesn't follow it that close. So I asked him, what do you think should be done with only a handful of juniors in the industry and only a couple in Canada? I said, do you think we should be looking at maybe putting a couple of these companies together and whatever? And he basically said that because he was more a gold and silver guy at first, he'd take RQ, and he was following the industry and wanting to get to know a little bit more about it. So we've give him an update every couple of months in what we're doing, and he is interested in following the rhodium that we have in the project. The last economic study had just over 100,000 ounces in a couple categories. But we weren't able to use it as a payable metal yet, because we're going back in and we just didn't assay enough samples. So we're going back through our drilling and our core, and we've probably sent in the 3rd batch we usually send between 200 and 400 samples in. And so we are working on rhodium and trying to bring it in as a payable metal. So he always asks about rhodium and how well that's doing. As you know, it hit as high as $20,000 here early in March, and an ounce. So it wouldn't take a lot of it to add something to the project. So we're working on that. He's certainly interested in following the rhodium studies.
Okay, interesting. It says here 24.5% is what he has at the moment. You've also got just shy of $8 million. So how's that being apportioned?
Well, as I said, the pre-feasibility study was 4. I think we spent probably about 2.6 of that 4 now. And so we hope to have the study out. We're hoping to have it out in June, July. The labs, quite frankly, and the metallurgical work in that, it's just behind the times. Everything to do with assaying or anything to do with labs metallurgical work just seems to be way behind. Everything else is coming along. So we're now saying that the study should be out and published in September of next year. So it's coming along well. We've basically, in the next week, we'll have everything outside of the environmental work done in the field. We had to do geotechnical drilling and drilling for wells and a bunch of that stuff. So as you know, this study is much more a comprehensive study compared to the PEA, which is more a desktop type study.
Right.
So we'll have all that work, and then they'll move back in to do the rest of the desktop stuff. And we're just getting going on a fairly big metallurgical study, about a $700,000 study. So it'll be a lot of the balance of the work before we can finalize the documents.
Do you think because of how long this company, because the model that you employ, this company has been around a long time. Obviously, you spin things out and create shareholder value, hopefully that way. But you're sitting on just shy of 300 million shares fully diluted, which if you're in Australia, that's nothing. But in North America, it's less understood or it's perceived negatively. And with sort of 60% retail shareholder registry on the register. Is that a negative for you? Is that something that you get pushback on a lot? And if so, have you thought about doing something, or if not, why not?
Well, it's funny. When I first went to Vancouver in 1985, I think they thought a 10 million share company was a lot of shares. So it certainly has changed a bit. There are lots of companies in the 1 to 3 or 400 million, 500 million share range in Canada now, but it's not. Excuse me, something that we were used to, and I think there probably is a little bit of pushback on the amount of shares outstanding, but it is what it is right now, and I think that we need to get this study out and get the stock moving into some bigger institutional hands, which back in the mid 2000s we probably were 40 or 50% owned by institutions, and then that slowly started to disappear in the 10 years from about 2008 to 2018. But it's slowly coming back. We've got a few institutions involved now, and hopefully want to bring more in. But it's the old story. If we get a couple more groups that want to buy 10 or 15% of the company, it wouldn't take much to change the share price.
Yeah. And what are you sitting on? I notice management's like 6%. Is management you, or is that literally the?
Yeah, it's mostly me. It's mostly me, but I do have a couple directors that own a couple million shares altogether.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so what are we looking at for this year? 2022, big moment. So is the PFS, sorry, remind the timing for the delivery of PFS is when?
Yeah, we should have the PFS done before the end of September and announced. That's our plan. Again, probably got about $1.4 million to spend to finalize that up. A big part of the last work will be this metallurgical work, and then they'll put the documents together. We've done all the field work that needs to be done, except for they'll be back in the field doing some more environmental work. We've got a group now that have done, this will be the 4th year working with us on the environmental side. So we're coming along well there. Then there's a couple things happening. We announced this rhodium study, and so there'll be announcements coming out on it over the year, trying to get it as a payable metal. We did find a new area that's about 50 to 100 meters away from our known resources that we'd like to drill. We have an area called Banshee that's only got 22 holes in it. We want to continue drilling it to make sure that we either eliminate it or add it to the resources. We've done some modern day geophysics in the northern 4 kilometers. We've got 9 different targets we'd love to drill there. One of them, we only drilled on one. We've already added a couple million tons, and there's more to be done there. So they're definitely good targets. We'd like to do modern day geophysics through the whole 16 kilometers again, and that'd be another 12 kilometers of work there. And as I say, only about 60% of that was drilled, and it's not all drilled. So there's a lot. If we had an extra $5 or $10 million, we could have a couple drills out there going 24 hours a day right now. So there's, the project is not completely explored by any means, and we think there's a whole lot more potential in terms of adding ounces.
Brilliant. Look, Harry, I appreciate your time today. Kind of, it's like first run through the story. We'll take a while to kind of absorb that, and maybe we come back and have a slightly more technical conversation about how your job program has been planned and the model, etc. So, thanks again for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.